The opening speaker that you heard was Munana James, who is co-leader of our organization. We want to welcome all of our Indigenous sisters and brothers from throughout the Americas, and we affirm the unity of all Indigenous peoples, regardless of what borders may stake between us. When I look out over this crowd today, I see so many friends in struggle from the African diaspora, from Palestine, from Haiti and Puerto Rico, from Asia and South Asia, and so many other places. We welcome, too, our white allies who stand with us. Some of you have been a part of National Day of Mourning for decades now. We welcome people who live in Plymouth, as well as those who traveled a long distance to be here today. And we want to thank the International Action Center at Lacour, New York, bienvenue, as well as Decolonize Boston for working so hard on transportation arrangements. We welcome people who have been coming here for 42 years, and we miss our friend Bobby T, who just had triple bypass surgery. This is the first year he's ever missed, but he'll be back. And we welcome people who are here for the first time. We greet veterans and disabled people and people from trade unions, LGBTQ people and immigrants. We greet everyone, young and old, who is here today. And I had better not forget to welcome those of you who have come today from Occupy, Decolonize Boston, and Occupy Wall Street, and from Occupy the Hood, I read on the net the other day that Occupy is the word of the year. I don't know how they figured that out. Maybe it just gets searched or pops up more than any other word. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Some Native and other oppressed peoples have had a feeling about this word, occupy, because that is what imperialists do when they colonize our land. They occupy us. Our indigenous lands are already occupied. And I know people from Puerto Rico and Palestine and many other places, we know about that feeling of occupation. So that word occupy can push some buttons, since we feel as though our lands actually need to be unoccupied, or deoccupied, or decolonized. It seems as though everything is occupied and getting privatized. Many city parks are now private. We're seeing that in Dewey Square in Boston. We're seeing that at Liberty Park in New York, many places like this. It feels as though there are fewer places where regular working people can gather because they're already occupied for the rich. And the 1% now wants to occupy even more than the land. That is not enough for them anymore. They want to occupy everything under the land and over the land, too. The greedy energy corporations want to destroy mile after mile of communities and ecosystems with the tar sands and the XL pipeline. They are endangering aquifers under the earth with their fracking. They drill oil offshore and continue to build nuclear power plants. They continue to send not only pollution into the skies, but also satellites with radioactive material into space. This is all combined with the escalating global warming problems that our elders have been warning about for so many years. There is a poisonous occupation of our planet going on. I think of Leonard Peltier, and we will be talking more later about this Anishinaabe brother who is a Native political prisoner. We will have an update on him and a message from him. He's in prison because he and others stood up to fight against the occupation and exploitation and poisoning of Oglala Lakota land and Pine Ridge. I think, too, of how Leonard Peltier and Mumia and other political prisoners have resisted for so many years having their minds be occupied and colonized. And what a struggle it is for all of us every day to try and free our brains from being occupied. And yet, at the same time, we recognize that the word occupy has been reclaimed by militant workers from Egypt, Mexico, and many other places to describe occupations of factories, schools, and neighborhoods. Indigenous people have in the past occupied Alcatraz and occupied the BIA building, for instance. Also, some of the occupied cities took an important step, which was to express their solidarity with Indigenous peoples and seek Indigenous participation, to acknowledge that decolonization needs to be part of the dialogue, not just occupation. Occupy Boston did this very early on, with much thanks to Martin and everyone else from the Indigenous Solidarity and Outreach Working Group there. And so have other cities, such as Occupy Denver and Occupy Albuquerque. When a hand is reached out to us in friendship like that, we want to respond in kind. So it is in this context that we support Occupy Boston and the Occupy Wall Street movement. A lot of people now are feeling economically marginalized. Some of us have felt that way our whole lives and for generations, and some people are experiencing it for the first time. Being broke and unemployed is not a new feeling to us Indians. Some of the elders when I was growing up used to joke about how they didn't even know there was a Great Depression going on in the 1930s because everybody was already poor and hungry and unemployed in Indian country. I saw recently that native unemployment in the northern plains states in Alaska exceeds 50%. Every single winter, thousands of our people have to make a bitter choice between heating and eating. All too many of our native children and elders go to bed hungry. The majority of Indian people have been economically marginalized for generations, and we are not alone. There are millions of other people who have been tossed to the bottom economic rungs of this country. We are severely impacted when food or housing or health programs are cut by Democrats and Republicans alike in their fits of balancing the budget off the backs of poor and working people. A lot of people right now are trying to figure out how things got to be this bad, with such deep economic disparities. I think that everyone should learn about the waves of the past that have carried us to this place. As a starting point, let us all acknowledge that this country and its immense wealth were founded on the genocide of native peoples, the theft of our lands and resources, and the kidnapping, enslavement, and forced labor of our African sisters and brothers. The American dream has always been an American nightmare for us. But things do not have to stay that way. We all have so much to learn from each other. We can come together in the future in shared spaces to share our anger and despair at current political and economic conditions, to plan direct actions, to learn from and understand one another. Our first day of mourning back in 1970 was a powerful demonstration of Native unity. Today is a powerful demonstration of the unity of all people who want the truth to be told and want to see an end to the oppressive system brought to these shores by the Pilgrim invaders. Together, we can forge a new movement that can sweep away the 1% and halt the devastation that threatens to destroy our beautiful planet. Woo!